now be going over the additional packet of documents you set aside at the beginning of this video. Nursing home or home care application, document requirements. This is an appointment letter. The attendant can give you a date and time at the end of this video session if you stop at the front desk before leaving. This letter also gives you an idea of the documentation we will need in order to process the application. A checklist will be provided once we have reviewed the completed application and documents you provided to us. What you can do to speed up the processing of the Medicaid application. It looks like this. The front page of this will give you suggestions about reporting requirements and gathering the correct documentation. As stated at the beginning of this presentation, the sooner you provide all the required documentation, the sooner the worker will be able to make a determination of eligibility. Income tax returns. We do require tax returns for the applicant and his or her spouse from February 2006 or up 5 years, 60 months, whichever is less. If the applicant and his or her spouse did not file an income tax return for any of those years, you can contact the IRS and request verification of this in writing. 4506-T Request for Transcript of Tax Return. This form is provided as a courtesy for those who may not have kept a copy of their tax returns. You can fill this out and mail it to the IRS to request a copy for any years you are missing a copy. Or you can bring it in and we will fax it to the IRS for you. You can also call the IRS to request copies. Health Insurance Verification Sheet. This form must be completed by the private health insurance provider for any secondary insurance the applicant carries. Resource Explanation Sheet, Onondaga County. This form is provided as a means of organizing in writing all transactions, deposits or withdrawals of $2,000 or more for each of the resources owned currently or within the look-back period. The look-back period will be from the date of application back to February 1st, 2006, or for a maximum of 5 years, 60 months, whichever is less. This includes any accounts the applicant may have had at one time but were closed out within the look-back period. Your worker will advise you to what your look-back period is and also any additional transactions that we need explained. But you should be prepared to provide at least the minimum based upon the month of application, as explained above. In addition, we will need statements for all of the accounts for the entire look-back period. Please do not leave out any of those months as we cannot process the case without a complete set of statements for each account. A separate resource explanation sheet should be done for the resources owned separately by the applicant's spouse or other responsible relative to avoid any confusion of who the owner is for each account. Frequently asked Medicaid questions about property. The property we are talking about here is a homestead. The definition of a homestead is the primary residence occupied by an individual and or member of his or her family. The homestead includes the house, land, integral parts such as garages and outbuildings. The homestead may be a house, condominium, cooperative apartment, or mobile home. Vacation homes, summer homes, or cabins are generally not considered to be homesteads. For Medicaid, the homestead is not counted as an available resource as long as it is occupied by the applicant or recipient, a qualifying family member such as a spouse or minor child, a dependent relative who is supported by the institutionalized individual or child of any age, who is certified blind or certified disabled. For individuals who are permanently placed in a medical institution and where no such qualifying family member is residing in the home as described above, the fair market value of the homestead, minus liens and encumbrances, is considered to be an available resource for determining Medicaid eligibility. However, if the institutionalized individual expresses in writing his or her intent to return to the home, the property will not be counted as an available resource, but the Department of Social Services will place a lien against the property unless it is occupied by a qualifying family member, such as stated above, or by a sibling with equity interest who has lived in a home for 1 year prior to the applicant's admission to the medical facility. For individuals temporarily placed in a medical institution, for example, to receive rehabilitation services and the homestead is unoccupied, that homestead is exempt as an example resource for as long as the placement is temporary. It's important to note that in each of these situations, as noted above, there are no disregards from income or resources to pay for property expenses such as utilities, taxes, or upkeep. And there is no provision to allow you to pay back anyone else who might have paid these costs for you. You are also obligated to report your Medicaid worker any changes in the status of the homestead. For example, if any qualifying person moves from the home, if you decide to sell or transfer the home, or if you sell or transfer a life estate, such events are your responsibility to report, so that your Medicaid worker can determine if and how it will affect your case and what you will need to provide to verify such an event. Informational notice to couples with an institutionalized spouse. This will provide you with the basic information every couple will need to know when one of the spouses is in need of institutional care, home, and community. It defines what institutionalized means and how to request an assessment of the total value of you and your spouse's combined countable resources and income so that they are not depleted by the cost of care. It also provides you with the current levels for the resources and income that the community spouse is allowed to retain and avoid impoverishment. Health care programs for New York State. This form provides a brief description of other Medicaid programs offered in New York State for adults and children. Please take it home with you and read it over, if you or another family member needs help paying your medical bills. Department of Health, New York State Privacy Policy Notice. The purpose of this form is twofold. First, to assure that your health information is private and will only be shared by us as the law allows. And second, what your rights are in accessing your own medical information. As stated earlier in this presentation, we can only share your medical information if you request it. We will also share it with other government agencies only if they request it as allowed under the law, such as audits. The law requires us to share your information to pay for the health care and operate the program. For example, we use your information to pay your doctor, hospital, and/or other healthcare provider bills, to make sure you receive quality health care and that all of the rules and laws have been followed. Contact you about important medical information or changes in your health benefits. Make sure you are enrolled in the right health program, and collect payment from other insurance companies. Please read this over carefully so you understand your rights under these laws. Disclosure of annuities. For those applying for medical assistance coverage of nursing facility services, you must disclose any interest you or your spouse has in an annuity, regardless of whether the annuity is irrevocable or treated as an asset. In addition, for any annuity purchased by the applicant or applicant's spouse after February 8, 2006, the state must be named as the remainder beneficiary. Long-Term Health Care Program and AIDS Home Care Program Consumer Information Booklet. This booklet is required to be provided to all applicants for nursing home placement, AIDS home care, or others who may be interested in these programs. If you are interested and have any questions after reading this booklet, please be sure to ask your assigned worker. Booklets. All three of the following are provided to you as a requirement of the state of New York. They may not relate to the services you are seeking at this time. Please take them with you when you leave today, and feel free to read them at your leisure. The booklets are what you should know about your rights and responsibilities when applying for or receiving benefits, what you should know about social service programs, what you should know if you have an emergency.